Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is another Derbyshire church. This is the hill village that once a tiny little town. It's now no more than a village. The hill village of Kirk Ireton, and this is the church of the Holy Trinity. The name of the village tells us that this was an important ecclesiastical centre because you have the word Kirk, church. We're here in that point in England where Kirk, which of course is best known the Scottish Kirk, but the word Kirk is an English word as well. It's effectively the same as our word church. It's just developed in a different direction. So this is the Kirk at Kirk Ireton. Now there was a church here as far back as the 11th century, and the nave, which I'm standing in here, is part of that original church. Like most English parish churches, certainly good ones like this, it's grown over time. Aisles have been added, towers have been added in the 12th century. The chancel is 14th century. Either side of the chancel are chapels that were built in the 16th century, and the clerestory above is as late as the 17th century. So as we have a look around, we'll see some of the changes now. Again, the Victorians have been here. You can see the wall plaster has been taken off because it's this idea, well, this is what medieval churches look like. No, they didn't. The stonework here is much too rough to have been ever intended to be all visible. Now, it would have been plastered, indeed, in the 11th, 12th century when the earliest parts of the building were constructed. The walls would have been plastered and then painted in imitation of posh ashlar stonework, because as we'll see, as you can see here, it's basically, and that's the 14th century bit there, it's basically a bit rough and ready, and some of it is more rough and ready than others. So let's have a look around this interesting village church. And so, as usual, we start at the west end. Sorry, slight interruption. West end. There is a west tower, as I said. You can see here we have some Norman arches and Norman columns. A plain one here on the north side, but here on the south side we have a bit more fancy carving there. The main font here at the back is very, very Victorian. Never mind. Because here, by the door in the south aisle, what's this? This is an 18th century font, maybe late 17th. It's what's known as the birdbath style. It's not used anymore as a font, but it's still there, and it's much prettier, in my opinion, than the Victorian one. What you have, of course, is that in the Middle Ages, the view is that basically the norm in baptism is infant immersion. So you take an infant and you plunge them beneath the water of the font. By the 18th century, the norm has come to be the sprinkling of infants. And of course, you don't need a great big font that you can dip a baby in if you're not dipping babies in it. And so they go for these elegant things instead, a sort of bit of neoclassical work there. Most of the furnishings are later. You've got these very, very simple pews that look to be early 20th century. In the north aisle you have a notice board, and you have a sampler of Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper, and of course behind is the blocked north doorway. In the Middle Ages this was opened during baptism in the exorcism, which was supposed to cast evil spirits out of the child, but this was abandoned at the Reformation as superstitious, and then the north door pretty much became useless unless it was used as an entrance into the church. So we pull back and just see up there, that's the clerestory. Now that is 17th century, and it's put in to allow more light. That's the whole point of a clerestory. At some point in the 18th century there was a gallery, and then there was a restoration in 1878 which gave it, the structure at least, its present appearance. The pulpit is a memorial to Henry Abel, who died of wounds in the Great War, July the 12th, 1917, aged 19. So this is obviously immediate post-war. He was the son, well, brother really, he was the son of a local man, Mr. Abel, and this is his brother's memorial, Benjamin Abel, who was schoolmaster of this parish for many years and addressed over the church 1895 to 1947. That's going to be his dates. You can see behind you've got a candelabra. You've got this rather nice wooden lectern. There's the war memorial and roll of honour over here. So you've got the two memorials. You've got there's the Second World War here. There's just a Second World War here. There must be a First World War somewhere, unless, of course, Mr. Abel's the only one. Oh no, here we are. Yes, that's with this roll of honour here, that framed here is the First World War memorial, because it's Henry Abel at the top. No, RAF. No, it's got to be the First World War, because the other one up there is definitely the Second World War. The chancel, we've got, you can just see there that lion's head corbel. The north chapel is now occupied by the organ. The uplighters, the brass uplighters, you can see those two are lit and those two are not. These are your electric lights for the choir. And we've got one of those altars with an open space underneath where you've got your figures for your nativity scene still up. We are still in January here. And this is the other chapel. I say these are 16th century, so they're probably, well, just pre-Reformation. The chancel here is 14th century, and you can see here this is the vestry doorway, priest door, 14th century work, very, very fine 14th century work. All the indications are that if there was a sedilia, it would have been drop sill type. And there's no sedilia now. And there's the piscina, which has now been turned into a shelf. And there we have the nativity scene at the bottom. You see at the moment the south chapel is additional seating. And then looking west, we have the tower arch, which has been lowered. You can still see the outline of the original arch. It's been lowered because in the 18th century they put a gallery in at the west end. That's been taken out. You can still see the ghost of the gallery doorway. And the tower beyond there is 12th century, and that arch, the pillars at the base, the piers at the base, they are 12th century. You can just see in the stonework the ghost of the 12th century arch. Uplighters are rather good. They look like they would originally have been oil lamps, and they've been converted to electricity. You can see the reservoir underneath the lamp. Quite clever, and retaining a very nice late 19th, early 20th century feature. So round into the side chapel here, and you have the Golden Jubilee sword. The sword is a replica of those used in the 7th century. It was central to the performance of the sound and light production in this church in May 2002. So that would be your village pageant, as it were. We have an old communion table here, which has been moved. It has it's Thomas Haywood, 1679. He would have been the church warden then who gave it, I expect. So there we have the inside of Holy Trinity, Kirk Ireton. Again, you look at these stone here. This is stone that was meant to be covered up. It's really little more than rubble. And again, the lovely Norman work here. And of course, these arcades would have been left exposed, probably, because the stonework is very, very good. So that's the inside here at Holy Trinity, Kirk Ireton. Let's go and have a look around the outside. Also, here we are outside at Kirk Ireton. I just stooped down slightly to stay in camera by the church. And you can see, again, this typical form. You've got your nice solid Norman west tower, and then you've got your later aisle here, your porch, very important, the porch, because things like the first part of the marriage ceremony took place in the porch. And then you've got your 17th century clerestory. It's a nice solid building in the middle of this little hill, well, not so little, hill village. So let's have a look around the outside. I was going to call it a small church, but it's not really. It's just a compact building. It's because it's got the two aisles and the side chapel. It's actually quite big, particularly for its age and location. We're here in the village, and you just see there the gates and the war memorial in front of the gates. Now the gates are 18th century, and the gate posts are believed to come, or the gate posts are 18th century, and are believed to come from the old manor house, which has now been demolished. You can see there's the main street, and just peeking up there is the gable of the old Methodist chapel. Nice solid stone built village here. And you can see next to it you've got the big old farmhouse. I don't think that's the old rectory. Big medieval porch. The porch is a little bit skew-whiff, as they say, but age means things can often end up in sort of funny locations and looking a bit odd. So there again, those 18th century gates. Gate piers there from the old manor house. Nice holly bush by the porch there, and you can see the difference in stonework really between the older aisles, the Norman aisles, and then you've got the 16th century chapel. We can go round the west end. The base of the tower door, the west door, has been blocked up, bricked up. It's maybe bits original Norman, but mostly not. You may be able to just hear the sound of the village school behind me. There's the north doorway. Nice OG arch there. Very impressive. And again, you'll notice that the side chapel, the north chapel, has a crenellated parapet, whereas the aisle doesn't. And then above, the big and plain windows of the 17th century clerestory. Move out a little bit in this direction. We have these solid houses along the lane by the church, and you can see here again that lovely solid tower, because yes, the Normans went for solid towers. No spire. There might have been a little hat on it in the Middle Ages, but then again, there might not have been. The views from up there must be amazing in clear weather. It is not clear weather right now. So there we have it, the mass of the building. You can see the 14th century chancel. You've got the vestry, aisle, well, chapel, aisle, clerestory, tower. It's a classic English parish church form here. The West End, or the East End rather, is very impressive. They put a lot of effort into it, got good local craftsmen there. There was quite a school of local craftsmen here who worked on a number of high status buildings, and this of course was one of them. So look at that stonework here at the East End, because the East End is the most important part of the building, because that of course is where the altar is, and again we're thinking Middle Ages, we're thinking medieval Catholicism. That's where the consecrated host is. That is where the miracle of transubstantiation is supposed to take place. So there we have it. Holy Trinity, Kirk Ireton, a little church on top of a hill in a little village. And so there we have it. Holy Trinity, let the car go past. Holy Trinity, Kirk Ireton. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a lovely little church. It's one I enjoy coming up to. It's not perhaps the easiest to get to. It's actually, although it's not that far from Wirksworth. So if you're ever in the Derbyshire Dales and the Peak District, why not pay a visit here and enjoy not just the church, but the village with all of its charm and beauty and other attractions. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you, and